session for today is our experience in university outreach for plant-based advocacy. And today we have our two special guests, Roxie and Soha, who are country directors from AAA. Let's hear from them. Roxie and Soha, please introduce yourself to all of us once again. Who would like to go first? Roxy, since you're louding, you can go first.
Okay, I'll go first. Hi everyone, I'm Roxie. I'm from Taiwan. I'm the Taiwan director of Animalize Asia. I'm based in Taipei City, Taiwan, and yeah, in the past 2 years we've been working with university students, and yeah, I will tell more details later, but yeah, just to leave a little bit of something. What about you, Zoha? Are you ready?
Yes, thank you, Aim and Roxy. Hi, everyone. I'm Zoha. Officially, my spelling is Doha, but I go by Zoha more often. I am the Pakistan director at Animal Alliance Asia, and I have been with AAA since 2024. I joined as the outreach coordinator, and just a little over a month ago, I stepped into the role of the country director. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here with all of you and to share a lot of my experiences that I've had as the outreach coordinator. And a lot of those things I am yet to do as the country director. So maybe whenever I'm doing the tea talk next time, a few months or years later, I'll have more insights to share as the country director. But for now, I'm really excited to have this opportunity. Thank you, Aim.
Thank you, both of you. Thank you. So as the name suggests, this is our first tea talk, and I think it would be great to start by talking about the cup of tea that we have for today. What kind of tea are you drinking today, Roxy and Soha?
So I was gonna, because I know we were gonna make tea today, and I was gonna make some oolong tea because this is like from Taiwan, and but then I realized it's actually already 8 p.m. here, so I probably should have something that doesn't have caffeine. So I made some buckwheat tea. Like we bought some raw buckwheat, and my partner roasted it in our pan, and I just made it, and it's so good, and it's caffeine free. So yeah, that's the tea I'm having in this cup right now.
Wow, that's smart. Yeah, the caffeine also is something that I cannot deal with either. What about you, Soha? What tea are you drinking?
So I was supposed to be drinking green tea because right now we have evening time over here, so it is tea time. But I'm generally not very big of a tea drinker, even though our culture is so heavy on tea. I prefer green tea whenever I have to drink tea. But right now, we have a holiday season going on for the last few days, so that means that we have a lot of guests over and late lunches. So I actually got done with lunch just a few minutes before this was supposed to start. So I'm probably going to have tea towards the end of this session, and that will be green tea.
Nice. Thank you so much for sharing. My tea is the classic Thai tea. I wish you can see, but we cannot see the color right now, but it's orange Thai tea with some lemon. Yeah, please feel free to share your favorite cup of tea in the chat as well. If you like Thai tea, bubble tea, anything, please let us know. If there are any like typical tea, traditional tea from your country, we would also love to know that. Okay. As you know, we will be talking about the experience of our work at AA today. So I'd like to start by giving you a little bit of the context, like general of what we do at AAA first, so that we're on the same page. So at AAA, we have a program called New Waves Asia, or NWA for short. So in this program, we mobilize local advocates and implement culturally specific interventions to create waves of change for farmed animals. What does that mean? So this program, like as you know, the goal is to create a kinder world for farmed animals. And we currently run this program in 6 Asian countries, led by 6 country directors. The country directors are the local leaders who strategize and also implement their programs with their local team. Because each country has different culture and different contexts and realities surrounding farmed animal issues, country directors design their approaches based on their context. And that means that our approaches across 6 countries are different from country to country. And today we are talking with 2 of our country directors who both promote plant-based diets by engaging with universities, but their programs still don't look exactly the same. So I'd like to start by asking both Roxie and Soha to briefly go over, like explain to us what exactly are you doing in your program?
Okay, should I go first? Okay. Yeah, so in Taiwan, we've been working with university students since 2024. So this is our 3rd year now. And so we've been collaborating with 4 universities, and our goal is to mobilize the next generation of vegan advocates. So we organize in 2024, we organized strategy workshops. So we train students to launch their own outreach initiatives. We also give out grants for them, small seed grants for them to launch their own vegan outreach initiatives. And we also organize vegan culinary programs for them to bond with each other and then know more about vegan cooking. And for last year, 2025, we tried to change the campus's food systems. So we trained the advocates to either have meetings with decision makers or talk to the vendors in the dining halls, try to turn the food systems in the campuses more vegan friendly. And the final goal is to build a more resilient movement together, really. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Roxie. And what about you, Soha? I know that you mentioned that you just joined as country director, but you've been engaging really actively in the past years too. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yes, of course. Thank you. So, as the name suggests, creating waves of change, that's a very powerful phrase because it symbolizes the ongoing nature of the process of bringing about change. And it's it implies depth of work, of impact, of leadership, and of organizing power. And I believe both of those are exactly what AAA is striving for through this program across all countries, including Pakistan. And in Pakistan, how we're doing this is that when I joined, it was in about mid 2024. That's when AA was helping some local grassroots organizers organize the first Wedge Fest Mela over here, Pakistan's first ever plant-based festival. And that's how I got recruited. And that was a huge success. The event brought together over 200 people, vegans and non-vegans included, for a whole day of interactive activities, and vegan lunch was served at the event. So that was a great event. And then since then, my journey started. And since then, we've been focusing a lot on university outreach. And we've also been engaging in a blend of other public facing activities, including webinars and localized events. And the idea is to spread awareness among people of what plant based eating refers to, why it's important, how it is possible to engage in it, and what impact our individual as well as collective actions in this regard can have on the lives of farmed animals. And most importantly, I feel this awareness is grounded in an intersectional political understanding, which we try to help the people we're reaching understand as well, so that slowly but surely we can start seeing a world where more and more people have the desire and capacity to shape up this change and to make it long lasting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, both. Yeah, that's really interesting. And now that you explain more to what about what you do, I'm also curious, what are the reasons behind choosing to work with youth, especially university students? Because there are so many stakeholders out there who many people might think that they all have potentials to drive change and create like this diet change. Why each of you choose to work with university students?
Should I go first, or do you want to go first, Zoha? I feel like I keep going first.
It's
Okay.
okay, you can go unless you don't want to.
Okay, I'll go first. So for Taiwan, yeah, so we actually have a rich history of youth-led activism in the past, throughout our history, really.
Mhm.
And so, for many of us, university represents like the beginning of critical thinking, because in Taiwan, like culturally, our education system is really spoon-fed. So growing up, we're not encouraged to think critically at all. And then we're also trained to like blend in, to not have anything like have different thought or bring up different opinions or confronting different ideas. So when we're in universities, we kind of start like thinking more about what the world is like around us and challenging a lot of the thinkings.
Mhm.
So yeah, so like to me as well, like I feel like entering university is like a liberating experience. It feels really like the first time, what I do in school and what I think, what I join is my own decision. You don't need to sign a agreement form from the parents anymore, and then you're on your own. So I think this makes university campuses a really like vital catalyst for social progress.
Mhm.
And I think including the movement to reduce animal consumption as well. So yeah, I think that's why I think training youth is really important. Yeah.
Mhm. What about you, Soha? Is there like differences, similarities in what Roxy has shared?
Yeah, I completely agree with Roxy, and I feel like the same applies to Pakistan as well, in terms of the crucial role that universities tend to play in young people's lives and developing their personalities and mindsets. And this is true even though there is a huge gap between the percentage of the population that gets to attend university in Taiwan versus in Pakistan. The percentage is unfortunately very low over here in Pakistan, with some estimates suggesting just even less than 10% of the population, um, which is, unfortunate. But this is also largely because of a lack of access among the general population to formal education, let alone a university degree. And Pakistan actually has one of the world's highest out of school children populations. So, if you are making it to university, chances are that you have had a greater access to a lot of resources than most people out there.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, a lot of variations do exist over here as well, in different in terms of the socioeconomic statuses of the people coming to university, because a lot of people study on financial aid or scholarship, and come from different sorts of schooling systems. So you do see a diverse blend of backgrounds, but for the most part, people who have the means to reach university, not just the financial means, but also other kinds of support, they usually are among the wealthier people in
Mm-hmm.
our society. And those are the people who tend to be, who tend to have the means to also consume more animal products, because
Mm-hmm.
those who don't have as much financial resources tend to go for the cheaper options, which are usually plant-based options like pulses and grains and vegetables. So, along with what Roxy said, another factor over here for Pakistan is also that we want to reach the people who are actually, consuming animals, and we want to influence them to reduce their consumption so that we can make a change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also that they will then, they usually do have, even if not during the university years, after they have graduated, they usually have the support around them, and have the means to be able to shape up their lifestyles according to what they want it to be like. Because when you're living, especially in like Asian cultures, we usually live in like close knit, family structures where we often don't have um, the access to be able to cook what we want. Cooking is usually communal. People, whatever the usually our mothers or whoever is cooking in the household, that gets eaten by everyone else. And so people often don't, even when they want to, they don't have the choice to be able to uh, eat plant-based food. But as people move through university, often those people move out or go abroad, or even if they stay within the country, they have the means to influence decision making in their homes as well. And so that can affect how, you know, that can affect how their ability to be able to make the choices that they want to make in terms of reducing animal products. So yeah, it's a mix of socioeconomic factors and obviously the focus on young people is because, like Roxy said, it's young people are the future. They are the present and the future, and they are going to lead the change that we're going to see.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like from what I hear, there are really like interesting points that you both shared. So first, like Roxy said, it's just a environment of in like critical thinking are encouraged, right? Like people can start questioning their practices or whatever that they've been doing for a long time. And animal consumption is one of the things that we've been carrying on for generations. And university space is just a kind of um a place that they can start questioning those things and encourage too. But also, like both of you said, we can see throughout so many social justice movements that students are actually in the forefront and lead the change. And I find it's really interesting that Soha shared that in Pakistan, people who can actually afford or like make it to universities are like a considered more privileged group, and they have more access to animal-based products. And I can also see that that's why also we want to work with them, because if we want to, like they are in a more comfortable, more privileged position to actually also reduce the consumption and from what they're currently um, consume as well. So yeah, that's really interesting. And
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
to add? Yeah.
Yeah, so to me as well, I feel like I just thought about this. Like this year, we're gonna work with university clubs and student clubs, and I think in some kind of way, university students, they also almost have more freedom than people who graduate universities because they still probably rely on some of the resources from their family. They don't have to make their own living 100% yet, and they don't have to. They're really like liberated to do a lot of the things they want to try, and then they can be experimental and with what they want to be interested in. Yeah, and so I think that's also really cool. And also, like, we're working with student clubs because we're focusing on student clubs that are focusing on planet or nature, and we
Mm.
can incorporate like vegan diet into it. So it's kind of like a combination of their hobbies and this vegan advocacy kind of like build a bridge between them. And
Mm-hmm.
also these students, they're likely to join like maybe nonprofit organizations or any advocacy related to that in the future, and then they can bring this message into wherever they work in the future. So I do see that as like a really big reason why I want to work with university students and youths. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, like you said, they have like a sweet spot between not
Yeah.
having too much responsibility, but also have
Yeah.
freedom to choose what they
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
eat, how they want to advocate or change
Mm-hmm.
the state of the future. So yeah, I can see why you both choose to work with university students. And now I like based on your experience, I'm really curious to know what kind of approach like or messages that you find uh effective, like when you approach either university students or the professors, the teachers, what message seems to make them change their mind or open up their minds to plant-based diets based on your experience?
Yeah, okay. So, let me see. Yeah, so in previous year, 2025, we worked with university vegan advocates to try to do change the policies around food systems in university campuses. And one of our members, she's actually a student representative. So she participates in a lot of conversations and meetings with decision makers. And she keeps bringing up the facts about like benefits about having vegan diets, and then how it's better for the environment, it's better for the animals, better for health. And it doesn't seem to be taken very seriously by the decision makers and like the administrators from the universities. And so, and it's like any institutional change as well, like it takes a long time to create a little bit of change or just a little bit of response from them. But we did notice that a breakthrough happened when she started framing the issue as like not having enough of vegan options in the dining halls is like a deprivation of student rights. And I think
Mm,
that's really smart. Yeah, because then the policymakers from the university, they start to feel more pressured into
mhm,
providing these options because they are actually vegan students, you know.
mhm.
So yeah, I did think that was a really good point that our member found out, and then we approached, and then it worked. Like it didn't like suddenly change the policies, but like we did get more constructive response from them. Yeah.
Mm, yeah, really cool. It's like human rights generally are more accepted among humans, right? Like compared to animal rights. So it's like the students kind of use the privilege or like the basic rights that we already have to kind of advocate for the non-human animals who are still oppressed, and like kind of use that as an angle to demand this change. Yeah, that's really cool. What about you, Soha?
Yeah, thank you. What Roxy said is really interesting, and I think it's maybe when we reach that level of movement building where we are able to engage with university administrations, etc. Directly, maybe this would be helpful over here as well. But for now, we're at a stage where we are at a very initial stage, so we're actually just trying to get our foot into universities and talk to students, get through to them, and find our base so that we can proceed further accordingly. We can find how many students. I mean, I doubt there are a lot of vegan students out there, even in places we haven't been able to reach yet. Um, there are some vegetarian students, maybe, but those are also very few in number, unfortunately, right now in Pakistan. And so, right now, what we've been trying to do for the last 2 years is to just try to start making people think about why they eat what they eat,
Mhm,
why they think an animal has to be consumed as part of their diet as a given. Why can their diet not be plant based? And even if it's not like we don't make it forceful, but we do try to encourage them to think about why every single time they're eating, uh, they need to have some form of animal meat on their plates. So, yeah, at this stage, we usually find it helpful to do what Roxie mentioned at the beginning of her answer, which wasn't working for the university administration, to mention the intersections like health, or basically like 2 years while I was the outreach coordinator, what I witnessed was role while the former country director of Pakistan, Ilya, used to lead the workshops for the most part. So she would really start from the basic step of when an animal is born, and then take people through each of the steps that would eventually make that animal, you know, land on a person's plate. And she would sketch out that whole process. She would explain, and she wouldn't make it very lecture based. She would make it interactive. She would ask students questions in the middle, and a lot of times students would give their input through their own questions themselves or their answers. And in during that whole process, so many things that we as human beings consider to be abuses of rights would come up naturally in the conversation, that I feel like it would really help students start to think that, oh, all of these things that we consider wrong when they happen with humans, they are happening.
Sorry, can we all still hear Soha? Okay, you disappeared a bit in the last
Hello.
part. Could you repeat, please?
Okay. Yeah. So I feel like going through each step of that way really highlighted how so many of the things that we consider to be abuses in terms of humans' rights are actually happening with animals as well, and we don't seem to pay attention to it or do anything about it. And so, for example, it would start with the parent-child relationship dynamic, and how parents and children should have the right to stay with their parents. But when we see animals as our food, that's not happening, right? Uh, chi- Children of animals and their parents don't get to stay together when they're being bred for mass consumption. And there would be, along the process, there would be physical abuse as well. Abuse as well. There would be human child labor employed at a lot of these places that would, you know, um, be involved in the process of turning animals into food for humans. Um, there are also like gender considerations, because I don't know if this statistic applies the same way to other parts of the world, but in Pakistan, women generally are less nourished than men, and whenever animal meat is being talked about in terms of food, it's treated as something special that men should have access to, even if women don't. So there are gendered considerations over here as well. So all of these things would come in the discussion. And then there's like, I feel like now with social media and everything, there is a lot more awareness among younger people as well about larger socio-political concepts and movements, even if they're not directly studying those subjects or concepts in class. So, like capitalism and Western imperialism, colonization, um, the patriarchy, climate change, uh, public health, all of these things would also then come into the fold, and we would be able to show them how all of these things are linked. And yeah, I think that really helps open up people's minds to what's happening, instead of just mindlessly eating what they have been told since their birth, that this is what you're supposed to eat, this is just your food, and this is not a life that's you know being harmed to make food for you. So yeah, engaging with students like this, we found has been helpful to opening the doors to longer term and more in-depth conversations.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Like from what I understand, from what I hear from both of you, it seems like we find the connections, right, between our own rights, our struggles with what non-human animals are going through right now. And I think the from what I learned from you, like the basic of the like suffering that we put on human animals through is because the this connection that we have with them, like we see them as the others or not as uh, sentient beings or deserve of equal rights. But when we are able to kind of like highlight that connection that we have with them, bring them into our consideration, and like Soha shared, connect to other sufferings or oppressions that's still happening, like capitalism, patriarchy, and everything else, it kind of we kind of see our struggle as a whole, and in a way that is a very powerful narrative as well to use and a powerful message to convince other people to also see the connection and convince them to actually change what they are eating. So yeah, I think that's very interesting. And the method that you and Elia have been using by like asking questions and let the student think for the answer themselves, and then slowly they reach to the point where they admit that certain things that they did to the non-human animals were wrong. It's so cool, but I also think at the same time it's like must take a lot of patience and effort to do that like so many times. How was that process like for you?
Yeah, I think you're right. It requires a lot of patience.
I cannot hear your voice
Because
again.
you go
Can
into
you
one class, it has 30, 40.
maybe
Sorry, can
that
you hear
was,
me now?
yeah, you just like a slight delay. Can you repeat from the top?
Okay. Yeah. So I completely agree with you. It does take a lot of patience. And because it's like you go into one classroom which has 30, 40, 50 students, for example, and then you have to go to another classroom whenever your next visit is scheduled and repeat the whole process again. And so, and obviously during that process, students would sometimes also ask questions or say things that you might not believe in, or like that you might feel hurt by, um, because that's their space to ask those kinds of questions, because obviously they don't have any other place to be able to get clarity on whatever, even maybe some ignorant questions they may have. So you have to be patient enough to not, even if you're feeling hurt about it, not lash out at them or something. So it's definitely an exercise in patience. But I feel like it's also often it wouldn't be so hurtful, because like a lot of times students, like we would go in with the expectation that okay, we're going to get some difficult questions or some tricky comments, but often the ratio of them would not be so high. We would usually get more open-minded and neutral or positive responses than outright negative ones. So it was also in a way it was also heartwarming and reassuring that okay, this we're going in with the worst possible expectations so that we have the ability to deal with the situation as it develops. But people are willing to actually think without any biases, and to, or like even if they have their biases, to yeah, put them aside for a second and think openly, and to truly listen and engage. And often we would also then hear about reasons why they find it difficult to um, eat plant-based foods um, consistently, and that would then open the doors to a dialogue where we can then together talk about what their barriers are, how we can work together to reduce them or eliminate them. So it's usually I like going to universities and interacting with students. It's usually more fun than stressful.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And I could imagine how rewarding it must feel as well when you see their thinking process slightly change because like you are not working only the on the surface level, you actually like go deep to work with the fundamental like mindsets that they have that will then inform how they change their behaviors later. So yeah, it's very valuable work that you've been doing. I really like have so much respect for your patience and that it's actually what you like to do. Anything to add from you, Roxie? Anything similar or different from Soha shared?
Yeah, I think it is really to me it's almost like scary to talk about like the fundamental like core like the value of animal exploitation like that because I've only had experience talking to a room full of university students about the diet, like vegan diet, and we were talking about really like how you can try this food and then the benefit of it, and how you can change by changing your diet. And even that, like you see the room full of people, and most of them were giving positive feedback, saying like, "Oh, the food," because we provided vegan lunch boxes for that event, and then most people are, "Oh, this tastes amazing. Happy to try more. I didn't know I can change so much just by changing my diet." But there was still like one person leaving a comment saying, "Oh, what about plants? They have feelings too," like a really common feedback in that
Yeah,
kind
really
of
classic
setting.
one.
Yeah. Like, so, but I just, like when I saw that, I was just like, I'm gonna focus on the good, like the positive feedbacks. And then I honestly felt really inspired because I was thinking about when I was a university student, I probably wouldn't be so open about it. So I was really like, I really appreciated the experience giving the speech to them, and that was like a really good experience for me. And yeah, so I'm also really like admiring what Zoha and Alia do because that's like really kind of different approach, and I think that's really really bold. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much both. Anything to add, Soha?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it also matters what location you're going to, what the general mindset of the students you're interacting with is like. So in some places, maybe doing what you do, Roxy, is the better approach, and being maybe in those places having these kinds of discussions might not really be possible or might not be as effective, and in other places going for this approach might be better. So I think it's also like part of being able to effectively communicate our message and resonate with people is also to figure out which place, what strategy will work better for. And I mean, I feel like we've tried this out in Pakistan as well, different strategies for different places. Over here in Pakistan, I'm based in Karachi, which is the largest city of the country. So most of our work has been over here only. And we've gone to a mix of different universities. We've been focusing mostly on public universities so far, but recently, like a few months ago, we went to a private university for the first time, and that is a university that is known to have a liberal arts education, which most universities here don't. And so we not only went to that university, but we also went through their feminist student club. So it was a very different experience as compared to going to a public university through a professor that we knew. And so when we would go to public universities, the conversation would have to be a lot more basic. Whereas when we went through the feminist club to this liberal arts university, the conversation was a lot more about in depth, the correlations between feminism and the animal justice movement, and how uh, just like the patriarchy oppresses women and queer folks, it also oppresses animals, if we look at it more politically that way. And on the other hand, when we do public facing events like that are open to the general public and not focused on university students, they tend to be more fun, and not as outright political, because we expect university students to want to engage in more political discussions and to have that kind of understanding, but the general public often doesn't. Like, it can, but there's like a wider range of people coming into those events then. And so we try to keep it lighter so that they don't feel, even though we're not forcing them anyway, but yeah, they don't feel intimidated or forced into doing or saying something at the event. And also because like there's this perception of any social justice cause being very serious, which I feel like all causes are very serious, but serious in the way that people sometimes take it negatively, like, oh, these people don't know how to have fun and they can never be lighthearted. And so it sometimes also becomes important to show them this side of our nature and of our work. Like, yes, veganism is a serious movement, but also people who follow plant-based lifestyles are capable of having fun and do have a lot of fun in their lives as well. They
Yeah.
have moments of community and coming together, laughing together, enjoying the food that they're eating. Like, it's not a miserable experience to not have to consume animals. So yeah, this is just something I wanted to add.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you so much. I think you have a good point. Like, it's all depends on the context and the people you're talking to, right? When you approach the feminist club, you can use the feminist language and talk about feminist issues that they already understand to connect the bridge with animals. When it's public, you just want it to make it more approachable and accessible to everyone, to make it fun and happy. And I think Roxy also worked with environmental clubs, student clubs as well. So like all the message needs just to be tailored to who the people who are we talking to. And speaking of that, I also curious to know because of course there are challenges and these things are not the simple easy work that we do. We are driving social change and it we need to do it for many time like for like in the span of a long time and with trial and errors, and of course, there are barriers as well. So I want to learn from you, what are your challenges that you face throughout the years of your experience in this program? And if you can also share with us how you overcome them, how did you like navigate those challenges? Um, yeah, anyone who wants to go first?
Roxy, do you want to go first again, or if you want, I can go first?
Maybe Soha can go first this
Okay.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, for a change, I'll go first. Okay, so yeah, I think this is a very important question because we often don't get the space to talk about how difficult this work can be sometimes, and to discuss how, you know, together we can maybe brainstorm ways to overcome those challenges. So in Pakistan, I was seeing the chat and someone had asked a question which actually links to my answer to this question. George asked, I'm curious to know what word you use: vegan, plant based, animal friendly, green. Um, I appreciate that you're dealing sometimes with languages other than English. So yeah, I'm just answering this question right now because it's directly linked to this particular question that AIM asked us. Thank you, George, for your question. So the reason why I'm answering this right now is because this is the first thing that comes to my mind when you ask about obstacles. Um, in Pakistan, we are at such an initial stage of the movement that using the word vegan, and maybe this is the case in other places as well in the world, but yeah, using the word vegan itself is controversial, and you typically would invite like negative reactions if you use the word vegan. And
Mm-hmm.
so we tend to try our best to avoid using this word over here. We usually use the word plant based. And yeah, uh, the thing is that plant based is also a term that a lot of people are not really familiar with. Um, when you think of plant based, like when I initially, I'll give you my example. When I heard the word plant based, plants came to my mind, like literal green, leafy green plants, which obviously are also a part of this term, but they are not all that there is to this term, you know. So it also then requires an explanation on what exactly plant based refers to, and how so much of our food is plant based, even when we might not realize it is. So that's an initial obstacle that is relatively easy to overcome when we have the space to have a discussion with people. When we don't, like if we're posting on social media or something, or if we don't have the chance to have sit and talk with someone about this, their confusion may not get clarified, which is um, a challenge that uh, I think will take time to resolve, for us to come up with strategies to maybe use an even better term, or to come up with like better, shorter explanations for this term that don't require having to sit someone down and explain it to them
Mm-hmm.
explicitly. Um, but yes, this is one challenge that we do face, and there are also multiple reasons for this. So, for example, for one, the word vegan, for example, has a very Western connotation, and so in our country shares a very complicated relationship with the West, and there's mistrust of the West due to years of colonization and imperialism. And so it's the same applies to other social justice movements in terms as well, like feminism, socialism. All of these terms also are seen as like Western agendas, and the case with veganism is similar. So yeah, we try to use the word plant based, but often we do have to end up using the word vegan if the person, to explain to the person in front of us what we're talking about, because they usually are aware of what vegan means. And so it becomes a bit tricky to be able to have an open conversation with them without them thinking negatively from the get-go. And another issue we face is around the availability of resources of plant-based food options. So, I mean, we do have a wide range of vegetables, pulses, grains, etc. in the country, but we don't have a lot of plant-based protein options. We have, in terms of the high protein options, we do have soya and tofu, but they are not readily available as much. And so the issue is that even when they are available, a lot of times like people don't know where they are available. Like there are a very few number of shops where they're available, and people who know about them will have access to them, but for the general population, that knowledge is missing. And we aren't even taught about it in schools at any point, right? Like since our childhood, I now feel like this is something so basic about our diets that we should be taught starting from whatever grade we start school in. But unfortunately, we're not really taught anything about our diets beyond a very surface level balance health pyramid, which always includes animal meat and never includes like plant-based protein options. And people nowadays, I think globally, are very big on like protein consumption, more than like all other nutrients. So this is an obstacle that we do face in terms of the availability of high protein plant-based foods. And like a lot of times when students or the general public wants to be able to change their lifestyle to bring it towards more of a plant-based eating lifestyle, they are unable to do it as much as they want to because uh, yeah, that food isn't available as much in terms of raw material and also in terms of like the restaurants you go out to eat at. So at some point it does become um, difficult for even people who believe in the cause to be able to exercise the choice to follow through it. So this is an obstacle that we, I think, will continue to face for a long time. But to counter this, we have been trying different things. So last year we onboarded a consultant dietitian who with whom we developed a plant-based eating kit um, to help people understand alternatives in different quantities and different food options that they can utilize instead of relying on animal meat. And we also we have been planning to at some point lobby with government officials, which I think like is happening in other countries that AA is found in. But yeah, that we're not at that stage in Pakistan right now, but we're working towards that as well, to lobby with government officials to have knowledge on plant-based eating included in the school curriculum, especially for like dietitians, because the dietitian we had onboarded told us that there was like barely anything about plant-based eating in her whole dietitian degree, which is it's so crazy that someone who's training to help people manage their diets is not getting the training for a very huge chunk of people's diet choices. So yeah, we I think are gonna try to move towards lobbying as well at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Soha, for sharing. I would also love to hear from Roxy, but before you go to your answer, I love to know first. So Soha shared, I think, two main things that she said are challenging for her. The first one is the language, like the terms around the word vegans and plant-based. Do you also have that problems? And the second one, I think she shared about accessibility because there are not much like substitutes or plant-based options for people to have access to. How is it like in Taiwan? Is different or the same? And then you can add your own answers after. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Aim. Yeah, I just thought so much when I was thought about it so much when I was listening to Zoha's answer. So in Taiwan, we have a really long history of Buddhism, and so a lot of people probably already know a lot of the Buddhist people in Taiwan, they are vegetarian or vegan. But their vegetarian and vegan is not the same as our vegetarian, like as the Western version of vegetarian vegan. They don't eat the five pungent. So like no garlic, no chive. I don't really know like a lot of the things that they don't eat. That's basically just something that's like um spice. They consider it too pungent, and then it will like kind of create like excitement, and then and so you might think, and so we have a lot of Buddhist restaurants all over the island, and but you might think, a lot of people might think, oh, that would be so much easier for you to advocate for vegan diet. But the thing is, it actually makes it more difficult because people think, oh, you're vegan, and we actually okay, so we actually don't have a word for vegan to start, and for vegetarian people say the word 吃素. So you eat, if you say you 吃素, that means that you don't eat animals. But the word 素 itself is a religious word. So it's really complicated to explain that. I can only tell people like, oh, I don't eat any animal products. No eggs, no milk. Like that's usually how I say it. Because if you say you 吃素, then people are like, oh, you're religious then. So a lot of the people, when they hear that you don't eat animal products, they have the idea that you're doing it for an agenda, like because they most people believe that Buddhist people do it for a better karma. They don't eat the animals, so they have better karma. Obviously, I'm not a Buddhist like expert, so I don't really know how real that is. But most people believe that, right? So when I tell people, oh, I don't eat animals, they think that you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for a better karma. And when I tell them, no, I just think it's sad to see the animals suffering, and they find it strange. They're like, how is that even like, why are you doing this? This is crazy, or this is unbelievable, So it actually takes more time. And a lot of people, when they hear about such diet, they're like, oh my God, you're so kind. And when they say you're so kind, it's kind of like withdrawing themselves from this possibility in their lives, So I encounter that a lot during my work and working with vendors or working with policymakers. To them, they're like, you're doing a great job doing this, but I'm not gonna try it, And like what Zoha mentioned as well, a lot of people see it as like a sacrifice, like you're going through something, and then a lot of people say, oh, Roxie, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. But I'm like, I can eat it, but I choose not to, So it's kind of like making this conversation harder, and a lot of people just shut it down completely, So that could be quite difficult sometimes, and people have the misconception that vegan food or like Buddhist food is not tasty, So a lot of people aren't willing to try. Like obviously there are like more like newer models of like the Western idea of vegan food in Taiwan now, but a lot of people still like transitioning from different ideas of plant-based diet. So most of the time during at my work, I just call it plant-based food. So we can call that. That's like a thing in my language. Yeah, it's just when it comes to explaining to people, you have to say, I don't eat this and that and that and that and that, So that's the language part, and like a more general barrier about work. And so my answer is more like more specific. So at my work, when I was working with university students, trying to change the food system in university campuses, I realized there's like a food safety code in most public university dining halls. So in Taiwan, most of the time, when you don't eat animal products, the protein source would be soy-based, like tofu or tofu skin, or soy milk, And this food safety code in universities regulates the soy-based products to being sold by the vendors in the dining halls should only be made with non-GMO soy. And the thing is that I looked it up. In Taiwan, if your soy-based product is GMO-based, you have to label it. But if it's non-GMO-based, you don't have to label it. So if you don't label it, it's non-GMO. But the universities are asking for specifically non-GMO soy-based labels. So it makes the vendors don't want to sell soy products because it's so much hassle for them to prove that, oh, these tofu is actually non-GMO, because where they buy it from is actually from like someone who doesn't label anything, even though it's non-GMO. So it's making the whole environment just really hard to sell any vegan meals. So yeah, I actually learned that, and I also realized, and this like, as far as I understand, there's actually no research proving that GMO soy products are actually more detrimental than non-GMO ones. It's just people just kind of believe it, and I think that probably just like went through the system and then became a policy. So in that one, we had to like try to think outside of the box, because I know it's kind of like people who try to eat organic food, right? They believe it's better, so they try to do it. And so it's kind of hard to change that policy overnight within a year. I don't even think that's like likely to happen. So we had to think outside the box. We have to, instead of like trying to change the policy and enforce the vendors to provide vegan options with tofus in it. We can choose to spread the benefit of plant-based diets to the students. So more students choose vegan options because we still have available vegan options in the dining halls, just not a lot. And so more students to choose that, so we create like a higher command, bigger command for it. And I think that could be probably more effective than trying to persuade the policymakers that, oh, you know what, like non GMO soy is actually not as bad, or the labeling situation, you know. So yeah, that's my answer for this one.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I would also think like as a stereotype, like as well, like the Buddhist plant-based meals make it more easy to find plant-based food. But when it comes to the university, you actually have this problem with the GMO label that make it so difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't
yeah,
know that.
yeah.
Like, yeah. Wow. Okay. So, okay, we talk about the challenges, and I know that you are like it's an ongoing project, programs that you both are working on along with four other country directors. So I wanna ask you, what do you envision, or what would be the trajectory of your program this year? What are you planning to do? What are you looking forward to? Maybe we can go over this really briefly, since I'm a little bit concerned of time. Yeah, who would like to go first?
I can go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're currently finalizing the plan for this year, and I'm also thinking about the upcoming years. So, for this year, there are a lot of things I'm thinking through. But for now, the plan is to keep the program focused on university outreach and to go deeper into it with the students who show interest on their own, for long term capacity building and sustainability. And like Roxy is also going to be working with student clubs, we are also going to try to do the work through student clubs for a larger part that we have previously done. And this will help us reach students who are actually invested in the cause, and who are open to learning more and doing something, taking localized action on their campuses in their personal lives. And hopefully then in the upcoming years we will then have a greater number of vegan advocates on the ground in Pakistan, because right now we don't have that. And so our plan is to develop the capacity of more um, young vegan advocates. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's really exciting, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. What about you, Roxy?
Yeah, so we learned quite a lot from last year's New Wave Asia program, and then there was like a really clear disconnect. Like in Taiwan, the climate awareness is really high. Like we talk about it all the time, and then shops try to name their shop names after like sustainable or green. And so, but dietary change is really a part of the conversation somehow. So we realize that university vendors aren't actually ready to lead the shift, but the younger and environmental grassroots organizations are. And we found that these organizations have a much higher number of members who are open to plant-based diets. So we are choosing to partner with these allies, and we can learn how to bridge the gap between environmentalism and food choices, turning passive interest into a sustainable movement for change. And we also realize that a lot of the time it is really hard to create institutional change from the top down. Like I mentioned earlier, it takes a really long time. I just don't think it's ready. They're ready to do it yet. So for this year, we decided to work with student clubs, organize events combining personal hobbies and vegan messages, so we can work from the bottom up. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds so cool. I love bottom-up approach as well because it's more like um people power creating change. And like you said, sometimes top down can take a long time and it's just few people that we need to kind of like focus on and rely on. So yeah, I love bottom up approach too. I'm also really looking forward to see what's gonna happen this year for both of your programs.